It's another gorgeous day for baseball in the Valley of the Sun. And live from Sloan Park in Mesa, Arizona, Sportsnet LA presents Los Angeles Dodgers baseball as the Dodgers send out Zack Greinke to start against the new-look Chicago Cubs. Hi again, everybody. Rick Monday along with Kevin Kennedy as we get set to go where the weather is warming up. The Dodgers have warmed up again. Another tie yesterday's ball game. And yesterday we saw Clayton Kershaw. Today it's Zack Greinke, the right-hander.
Well, Zack has been out a while. He had a lubricating shot in his elbow, right elbow, on February the 19th. He's had elbow issues in the past. We know that. Not unusual in spring training for him, so he was backed up a little bit. But he's ready to go apparently today, and we'll find out on the mound against the Cubs. Now, he did win 17 games. That's a career high last year in his 32 starts. And also, it's a good measure. He's one of the best fielding pitchers in baseball. He won it for us now.
Well, last time we were with him yesterday was Clayton Kershaw. Today is going to be Zack Greinke. Tomorrow will be Hyun-Jin Ryu. Really, if you look at the Dodgers, they're set up pretty good at the top because you have the left-hander, right-hander, left-hander. Pretty good balance right there.
Well, you've got two aces at the top in Kershaw and Greinke, no doubt about that. Both guys have won Cy Young awards. Of course, Kershaw multiple Cy Youngs. And then Hyun-Jin Ryu in the 3 spot. In some organizations, he'd be considered at least a 1. Or at least a 2 and maybe even a 1. So pretty good feeling about the first 3 Dodger starters.
Temperatures are expected to be in the mid-80s here today. The Dodgers trying to get the bats going is going to be Zack Greinke against the Chicago Cubs. You got a lot of things coming your way. Lineups and first pitch from Mesa right after this.
We had
The Cubs have taken the field, and it's a high overcast afternoon here. The temperature is right around 80 degrees. They're talking about mid-80s so far this afternoon as the Valley of the Sun is doing exactly that. For the Dodgers, 4 wins, 1 loss, and 3 ties so far for Don Mattingly's ball club. And they'll have Zack Greinke on the mound, and Don Mattingly looking at Greinke and hoping he'll go 3 innings at least. Here's the way the Dodgers will go. The veteran Jimmy Rollins just coming over. He's at shortstop. Hayes, he will start in right. Yasiel Puig playing in center field. Interesting story on where he may be. Yasmani Grandal batting fourth and doing the catching. Howie Kendrick, part of that double play combination with Rollins in second. Scott Van Slyke will be at first. The designated hitter, Justin Turner, and Jock Peterson in left. Kike Hernandez will bat in the 9 spot. Both clubs using the designated hitter here. Hernandez will be at third base. On the mound, the much sought after John Lester, the big left-hander, had the success with Boston and also with Oakland last year. So 32 starts, a combined 16 and 11. And when we mentioned the outset, really, Kevin, of the new look Chicago Cubs, it has taken the interest of the baseball world. It has certainly caught the interest of Chicago.
It really has. And Joe Madden, of course, had a lot of success and changed the culture in Tampa Bay. And he's trying to do the same thing in Chicago. You know better than anybody because you played for the Cubs, but let's face it, they haven't won a World Series since 1908, and that's a pretty long run right there.
So they have Lester, the 3-time All-Star and a 2-time World Series champion. So he signed with the Cubs in the middle of December after spending 8 years with Boston, 11 starts with Oakland last year. So the lefty's set to go. Happy to have you with us. And Jimmy Rollins steps in, the leadoff man for the Dodgers, the veteran, who's 4 for 10 so far in the early goings of spring. And for Lester, gets it underway. And we are here. Sellout crowd just a couple of days ago here at Sloan Park in Mesa, the second year that the Cubs have been here. There's a swing and a foul down the left field line. For Lester, interesting story. Much sought after. He has been successful. We mentioned an all-star, and he's been in the World Series and part of a World Championship team. But he's a guy, Kevin, not only does he come at you, he's got a pretty good idea of what he's doing with the breaking stuff.
He does. He's got a 4-pitch mix, Rick. And there's one right there, a little off-speed. That was his curveball. He doesn't throw it very often. He'll throw the cutter a lot more, but he will mix in the curveball 16% of the time, and he pulled a string on that one.
So Rollins goes down swinging. Here's Chris Heisey getting the start in right field, and Heisey's still looking for his first base hit. He is 0 for 7 at the present time. Heisey, last year with the Reds, .222. His value is really what he can do in other areas. Coming off the bench and pinch hitting. He accomplished that very well last year, and he can spot start here and there, different positions as well.
I think what's interesting that Don Mattingly's doing today, and I like it, I mean, he's got Yasiel Puig playing center field, Heisey to right field today, and Jock Peterson playing left field.
The left center, and Dexter Fowler, who covers a lot of room out there in center, coming over to the Cubs. Thanks the easy catch, and very quickly there's 2 down. For Lester, while he does throw hard, it is amazing, is it, when the pitchers begin to work on different pitches. And for Jimmy Rollins, he says, okay, third pitch of the game, he decided to work on a plus-plus curveball, similar to what we saw Kershaw do in his 2 outings he's had.
He really did, and we were talking about that yesterday, what in spring training, early in the spring, do the pitchers, what takes the longest to cultivate, and it's really the field pitch, the touch pitch, the curveball. In John Lester's case, same thing for Kershaw, because Lester is basically a fastball cutter pitcher.
Yasiel Puig, first pitch, ground ball, and Anthony Rizzo has it. So pretty close to a packed house tonight, and Johnny Lester in the Cubs uniform has a very good 1-2-3, and we'll have Zach Greinke on the mound against the Cubs. Spring training action in Arizona. In the background, Joe Madden, the newest of the Cubs manager, the 54th manager in Cubs history. And it comes over a lot of different fanfare. Here's the way that he'll make out the lineup. Dexter Fowler, boy, he can run it down. The question is, can he stay healthy and get on base, leading it off? Anthony Rizzo batting the 2 spot. Starlin Castro is at shortstop. Miguel Montero, who really wore out the Dodgers while he was with the Diamondbacks. Chris Coughlin in left. Michael will be at third base. Ryan Sweeney is in right. Arizmendi Alcantara is at second. And then Mike Baxter is the designated hitter. But for Zach Greinke, his first outing in the spring. And he lets go the first pitch, and Dexter Fowler takes the strike 0-1. Fowler is 2 for 8. But the story, Kevin, with Zach Greinke, he has told everybody that he is all right. And just talking to some of the catchers, they said, well, he's telling the truth because he's shown no ill effects at all.
Yeah, that's huge, obviously.
And Fowler gets hit. Although that is an easy ball to get out of the way of if you are a hitter. All you have to do is raise your arms. And for Fowler, did not raise the arms, but now we'll see if he's going to use the speed.
You know, Zach Greinke, I mean, talking about him being healthy, of course it's important because, you know, you want to get off to a great start. The last 2 seasons, the Dodgers have been as much as 9-10 games back in the division before they finally caught fire. This year, of course, with the different mix of players, you don't want to go through that because that's really hard to come back when you're 10 games back with about 95 games to play.
So Greinke now with the leadoff man aboard is Anthony Rizzo. Rizzo originally, and look at Greinke there, but Rizzo signing with the Padres. He did not endear himself over there. But for the Cubs, they grabbed him, and for Rizzo, he brings some power. Power indeed. 32 home runs, 78 runs batted in, and also had the higher average. Get close to 290. So putting things together. The story with Rizzo over the past when he was with San Diego, how would he handle the ball that was up and in particular?
Well, when he first came up with San Diego after he was traded from the Red Sox, he had his hands very high. Of course, we saw him in Los Angeles in the National League with the Padres. Once he came to Chicago, he was asked to lower his hands where they are right now, and he gets to the ball much better, and of course had a big year last year.
And Rizzo, oh, what a stop at second base by Kendrick, and we see that double play combination. Howie Kendrick brought his glove to today's game. And nicely done, 4-6-3.
Well, positioned perfectly. It was a bullet, a rocket shot by Anthony Rizzo on a couple of hops right here. 1, 2, and a backhand. Cracked it right into the glove. Nice flip feed to Jimmy Rollins and a nice turn for the double play.
Well, they're trying to get to know one another, that double play combination, and it also helps to be able to catch the ball in the front end. So very quickly, 2 out. And the batter is Starlin Castro, who is 1 for 8 to this particular point. Castro in that number 3 spot here this afternoon in Joe Madden's lineup. Fouled back.
It's interesting, Rick, for Joe Madden, having seen him in 09 and 10 and being with them. He will mix that lineup up. Rarely does he have the same lineup out there every single day. And you notice today Anthony Rizzo's in the 2 spot, and normally you would expect Rizzo to be in the 3 or 4 spot.
Foul back. Starlin Castro is one of those dazzling shortstops. Well, he put the offense together this year as well. You saw the numbers a moment ago, but he's now a 3-time All-Star. He has had moments of lack of attention to what's happening on the field. But one of the better glove men, and he drives one down the right field line. Waiting for it, Chris Heisey, and that's going to do it. The big double play. Howie Kendrick flashing the glove, and for Zach Greinke gets through the first inning very well. No score as we go to the second in Mesa. Clean inning, as did Zach Greinke for the Dodgers. In for Lester, back in an area now that he might have been matriculated in this area. He signed out of high school, out of Washington, with the Red Sox, second round back in 2002. He had already committed to Arizona State University. But for the Red Sox, they dangled a big contract in front of him, and the rest is history, as they say. Yasmani Grandal, 4 for 11 so far, stepping in. And for Grandal, the switch hitter, batting from the right side. Grandal, as we understand, better power from the left side, the 15 home runs overall.
Well, ironically, Yasmani Grandal, I talked to him when he signed or was traded to the Dodgers from San Diego. I said, what about the power from the right side? He had 15 home runs, all of them left-handed. And he said, you know, Kevin, and we were talking on Dodger Talk one night, Dave Bassett and myself, and he said, you know, really, you will see I have more power from the right side. I said, really? He said, yeah, my right knee from the surgery. He said, I just couldn't drive the ball last year, so that's why I went to winter ball.
Perfectly placed at second, Alcantara. There's one down.
And the irony of that is he also told us, Rick, on that particular night when he was on the show, he said, also in Cuba, I grew up in Cuba before I came to Miami. He said they made you switch hit in Little League. He said, so as a youngster, I had to learn in Little League they make you switch hit. Everybody on the team had to learn how to switch hit, which I thought was interesting.
Howie Kendrick stepping in 2 for 9. He has knocked in 1 run. Kendrick today in the number 5 spot. The Dodgers again have won 4. They've lost 1 and had 3 ties. Back-to-back ties now with the Giants, and then yesterday was against the Rockies.
So the 75 RBIs, not a ton of power. Good gap power for Howie Kendrick. He will go to right center very well. 7 home runs. Did knock in 75 for Mike Scioscia's Angels, and Mike had him in the 4th spot a lot with all the injuries that the Angels had.
2 balls and a strike. Kendrick gets aboard. Scott Van Slyke starting at first base today, waiting on deck.
Lester loves the cutter in on right-handers. He'll throw that pitch 31% of the time.
Inside.
And that was one right there.
Isn't it interesting, though, when you start to look at percentages and you can find them online and look at it to get tendencies of pitchers, and they break it all down? Well, the fastball X%, the slider X%, the changeup X%. Really kind of gives you a pretty good shoehorn to get a feel for the pitcher.
It really does. You know, and I've talked to John Lester in the past about his feelings on sabermetrics, and he completely throws it out the window. He said, I don't care what the hitter's looking for. I pitch my game because I'm a fastball cutter pitcher. I will mix in the curve. He said, it doesn't matter. He said, I don't care what the numbers say.
Well, it's a good point also. And for discussion, the ball is fouled off. Pitcher has to ask himself, okay, this guy is a fastball hitter, let's say, for example.
Right.
Not talking about Howie Kendrick in particular, but let's say there's a hitter. Okay, he's a good fastball hitter. If my best pitch is a fastball, why do I want to go with the secondary pitch?
Exactly. And that's his philosophy to a point. And so far in his career, it's paid off pretty well for him.
Payoff pitch, and it paid off pretty well for Howie Kendrick. So Kendrick, his 3rd hit in 10 at-bats this spring.
Well, Howie saw a lot of cutters in that sequence, and this one they're going backdoor this time. The first 3 cutters were trying to go in. This one was trying to go in the outside corner to bite that outside corner, but 3 and 2, as we mentioned, that's something that Howie does very well. He stays on it, goes right back through the middle.
Dodgers have not been running a great deal. They have attempted just 3 stolen bases. Barrena has 1 stolen base. That was yesterday. And Carl Crawford has the other successful steal. Here's Scott Van Slyke. Takes upstairs, ball 1. Van Slyke had one of those years that may be more appreciated by those that saw him play than those that were maybe reading the box scores in the paper and said, okay, there's Van Slyke. But for Scott, on base percentage was .386, slugging percentage was .524, and then on top of it, just 3 clicks below .300 in one of the difficult situations, not playing all the time, trying to maintain any semblance of timing.
I think, Rick, it's a very good point because we've talked a lot about Schebler this spring and, of course, Seager, and we're talking about the outfield situation with Heisey New here and Jock Peterson. But Van Slyke should not be the forgotten guy for the reasons you just said.
Other numbers also carried over to the pinch hitting role. Drives one and hooking foul. But for Scott Van Slyke as a pinch hitter last year, a .478 slugging percentage. That was tied for 9th best mark in Major League Baseball. Hit .261 with 2 doubles and a home run coming off of the bench.
Killed lefties, too. He got Wade Miley sent to the American League, for crying out loud, with Arizona. He just killed Wade Miley last year.
They're going to try and come inside right now. And Lester, the 2-1. There's the ball in. Broken bat. Castro to second for 1. Back to first, double play. You watch the catcher set up, and it gives you a pretty good idea at home where the pitcher is trying to go. So broken bat, double play. Both sides of the twin killing so far. No score. Bottom of the second coming up. Wednesday, April 8th. Well, that's when the Dodgers play host to the San Diego Padres at 7:10 at Dodger Stadium. And the first 40,000 fans in attendance receive an adult replica pullover jacket presented by Bank of America. So secure your tickets as soon as possible. Visit Dodgers.com/promotions. That jacket will not be needed here this afternoon. Again, they're expecting about 85 and expecting the next day or so to possibly go up to 90. 10 days ago, you needed that parka and a few more on top of it.
Yeah, it's getting to that point of spring training where the weather is just actually perfect for baseball, perfect for the fans, too.
Miguel Montero. So far in the spring, 2 for 8. Now make it 2 for 9. First ball swinging. Mentioned earlier, Montero really feasted upon the Dodgers. And he was involved in a few verbal battles,
especially with Greinke a couple of years ago. Ended up creating a pretty big brawl at Dodger Stadium. Dodgers Yasiel Puig had gotten hit right on the nose, just barely got out of the way of a ball, and the Dodgers retaliated. Greinke retaliated, and it happened to be Montero.
And Greinke got hit. Chris Coghlan, the batter. Limited action so far for Coghlan. Left-handed hitter, but he's 2 for 3. One thing, Kevin, that the Cubs need to do, and Joe Madden has touched upon it, but very lightly, at least publicly. The Cubs hitters last year had a major league leading strikeout total. It was a franchise record. Almost 1,500 strikeouts as a team.
It was really, really bad. I remember that last series of the year. We were together working in Chicago, and to see the strikeouts in that particular lineup with guys like Olt and Baez, and oh my goodness.
pulled foul down the right field line. And coupled with the strikeout total, you look at then the on-base percentage. There were only 2 teams in Major League Baseball that had a lower mark on-base percentage than the Cubs. Cubs are right at 300.
Which was 28th in baseball, 13th in the National League. The home runs, they hit 157 home runs. That was good for second in the National League. But as you said, the strikeouts and not getting on base.
Well, good pitch by Greinke, swing and a miss. Now the count 2-2. For Zach Greinke, it is remarkable, the pitchers. We commented about Kershaw, his first outing. Came in, he was throwing the curveball exceptionally well. And then Greinke comes in, and he's already shown the off-speed stuff, which is a field pitch. Looks like it's there already.
There's a good curveball right there. He didn't get the call. That's Jim Reynolds behind the plate. Grandal indeed setting up inside. The pitch was right there, especially being a breaking ball where Grandal caught that. It looked like it had to cross home plate. Too close to take, but Greinke did not get the call.
Payoff pitch on the hit foul. Joining Jim Reynolds, the rest of the umpiring crew, Anthony Johnson, Alfonso Marquez, and Clint Fagan working the bases.
You know, Rick, you're talking about numbers and Greinke, and it's interesting. You're talking about the field pitches, the changeup and the curve, which he's thrown a few already. He threw more changeups, almost twice as many last year, maybe 3 times as many as he did when he won the Cy Young for the Kansas City Royals back in 5-6 years ago. 09.
Coughlin draws the walk.
And he throws a harder change now, at least he did last year, than he did 5 years ago. That ball's pretty close too, but Reynolds has the tight zone today.
That's why you look at it walks and say, well, guy gives up some walks. Oh, he must be a little bit wild. Not for Greinke. We saw both of those pitches. An interpretation of the strike zone. So runner at first, Coughlin is 1 out. Mike Olt is the batter. He's 2 for 7 with a couple of home runs. The Cubs yesterday hit 3 consecutive home runs. They went back to back to back. They have 12 home runs as a team.
And 2 of those guys are not in the lineup today. Soler hit 1 in that sequence, and Chris Bryant, their huge prospect, third base prospect, hit 1.
Of course, the Cubs are also up there among major league teams in errors. We talked about the strikeouts and the low on-base percentage. But for Chicago, they made 4 errors yesterday. That's 1 more than the Dodgers have committed in 8 games.
Right.
Pitch in the dirt. Coughlin had an idea going and then decided better.
Yeah, he could have gone easily. He had a pretty decent secondary lead as well. This particular pitch. See, Grandal got down on the right knee first. You've got to get both knees down at the same time. That's why it kicked off to his left. It may look from afar that, oh, he got down, he blocked it, that's not his fault. No, that the catcher has to get both knees down at the same time. Feet have to come from out from underneath you. You get the right knee down, see how his left side opens up, and so now he has to kind of scoop it, and when it kicks off the heel of your glove, it kicks off your chest protector, which is already angled toward third base. Consequently, the ball goes toward the Cubs dugout.
And just watching the near end of the Dodgers first base dugout, Steve Yeager, who was the catching coach and was a standout catcher himself in the dugout, and he was involved in conversation after seeing that ball. Ground ball up the middle, and that's going to be it. The base hit, and the Cubs first and second, still 1 out. Boy, bat speed is a wonderful thing for a player.
And he got a cookie to hit too, a fastball right down the middle and up. Just about belt high, a little bit above that, to Mike Olt's liking, and he squared it up nicely.
Ryan Sweeney now is batting. He's 2 for 5, left-handed hitter. Sweeney is out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa. He was the White Sox second-round pick. Of course, when you talk about rounds of picks for the Cubs, it's interesting after 3 years really rebuilding their farm system at the expense possibly of the major league roster. The Cubs are back in the hunt now for the first time.
If you listen to team president Theo Epstein, he says, look, we're all in. We're not selling out this year. We're all in. And we brought, first of all, the biggest person in, Joe Madden, the manager.
Well, I'm one to believe that good managers do make a difference, and Joe will make a difference here. That doesn't mean they're going to win the World Series for the first time in the next year or two, but he will change the culture here, because I saw it in Tampa Bay, where it was so negative before Joe came in. He's a very, very positive person.
Sweeney takes inside, and that's going to load the bases.
I'll tell you, those pitches are close, and Greinke's certainly not happy with it. And you can't blame Greinke, because he's trying to work on command. He knows he can throw a fastball for a strike anytime he wants, but he's trying to hit the corners, and that's what he should be doing. Pitcher of his caliber.
We just saw something. You won't find it in the box score, and it won't be in an analysis. But Greinke walks the bases loaded, and who comes in? Well, Jimmy Rollins, who has already made a very big input on this ball club. If nothing else, it takes a break. It allows the pitcher to take a breath, break the momentum, if you will. Osmendic Alcantara popping up. Greinke didn't know where the ball was. He was looking at his catcher, Grandal. He never saw it looking up into the sun.
He sure didn't, and it made me watching him, as that's all I was watching, was Greinke think, well, why isn't anybody else crashing on that ball? Well, Howie Kendrick knew where it was the whole time, so no problem.
Yeah, but Greinke just looking up. He's trying to shade his eyes from the sun, looks up. I don't see it. I don't see it.
Yeah.
It's behind you.
Well, he knew it was in the infield somewhere. He just thought it was in front of the mound.
That is a lonely feeling, folks.
I bet.
And if you're playing in Chicago, not as much now, because before the lights, obviously, it was all day games. You dealt with the sun each and every game. Dealing with a fastball is Baxter, and he'll knock in at least a couple. He gets the ball back in, and the Cubs take the lead. And Baxter wasted no time. That's his first hit of the spring.
Well, after making a good fastball pitch to Alcantara in on his hands to pop him up, Greinke tried to do the same thing, but you can see the ball trail and leak back out over the plate, and Baxter jumped all over it. Yasiel Puig did a nice job cutting that ball off, getting it back in immediately, and it saved a run by doing that.
And we've seen now Puig a couple of games already in center field. He's also played in right field, which is going to be the lineup with the Dodgers. Whereas with Lester pitching in today's game, we have not seen Jock Peterson coming on to bat. Peterson is in left field today, so a little unusual. Peterson in left, yep, and Puig in center.
You know, I am. You told me this when I got in this week, Rick, that Yasiel Puig has been moving his feet, getting ready before the pitch as it's on the way, and I've been watching him. He's been doing that. A lot better.
Off, and Fowler lives up to his name. He fouls it off. 0-2 the count. A season ago, Yasiel Puig was like a millisecond behind. He was not in what you would consider all of the time great fielding position. He has the advantage of cat-like reflexes and blazing speed. But I think playing center field, quite frankly, you're looking right into the play, right into home plate, and you can read the ball much better in center field than you can in left or right. Fouled off again, and we'll do it all over.
Well, working a lot with you last year, you know, I work on the catchers and pitchers often because that's the position I played. But you got me watching the outfielders more than I ever have, and it's really fascinating to me because you can see the difference for the good outfielder, why he doesn't get to a ball versus a guy that's engaged defensively and ready on every pitch.
And if you look at the defense, both infield and outfield, a hitter will get some tendency. There goes the runner at first. And safely in there with the stolen base is Baxter.
Take a look at the pitch right here. It's up, and Grandal just stays up instead of getting through the ball on the throw. Rushed it a little bit. And what I mean by that, as a catcher, you still have to finish your throw and get through the ball and get over the front leg and bend almost like a pitcher.
Popped up to the infield. Hernandez puts it away. with the one-hand Fred, but a couple of base hits. RBI single by Baxter to the third. 2-0 Chicago. Arizona and see the game? Well, don't miss your chance to hop on board Southwest Airlines Spring Training Express. Now it's hosted by AM 570 KLAC. Right here to spring training on March 13th. Airfare, hotel, and the game, it's all included. Now to enter, just call 562-5-GO-BLUE before the game ends today and leave your name and your phone number. Winner will be notified after the game, and you must respond by midnight tonight, or another winner is going to be selected. So listen for your phone. Come over and join us. Justin Turner as the designated hitter. Big swing and a miss, 0-1. Turner 2 for 9 thus far. Turner had a good day yesterday and a good season last year at 340. Lester good off speed, 0-2. And an interesting note brought over in between innings for John Lester. And this is something to think about as the season unfolds. With runners on first and John Lester pitching. Ground ball. Castro takes it in the midsection and now throws over to first, and there's one down. But something to keep in mind and mull over. If you're a runner at first base and Lester is pitching, John Lester did not make one pickoff throw to first base all of last year. Not one.
That's an amazing stat. It really is. I mean, that's as a base runner, you would think, well, I'm just going to go first move then once in a while. The guy's not going to throw over to first. He does look like he's going to first base when he's in the stretch. And I know that's tough on runners, but boy, you got to be aggressive and make him change that if you're a base runner.
Jock Peterson takes the strike. Jock is 5 for 11 as an RBI. Peterson, when you watch him, he has a very narrow stance. His feet are not even shoulder width apart. And then he has the leg kick and the stride. And if the leg kick is not in sync with everything else, you're late to the dance.
And that cutter right there fooled him. That had more depth. It looks sometimes like a slider, but that is indeed John Lester's cutter. He's got a very good one today.
And I would just imagine that as Jock Peterson continues to grow and learn about his own swing, I would imagine that that foundation is probably going to spread out at least a few inches.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be exaggerated. But trying to sink the bottom half of your body with the hands, and that's a problem right now.
Well, that's a good sequence by John Lester. He just kind of took Jock at school right there with that cutter to set him up, and then he painted him with a fastball away. In the timing, Jock was just off. He couldn't pull the trigger on it. Too close
and
it
was almost as if, on that replay, as if the leg kick was setting up for a breaking ball and not the heater, because the foot was back on the ground late.
It was late.
Here's Kike Hernandez. Still looking for his first base hit. He's seen a lot of action, but he's 0 for 13 with a lumber.
Yeah, one thing that we've noticed watching him when he swings the bat, that pitch on the outside corner has given him problems. Either he's not tracking it all the way. I've seen him strike out looking out there. I've also seen him pull off that pitch quite a bit. Saw Lester a lot in the American League, of course, in 09 and 10, and he had a Cy Young type year each of those 2 years, and I saw him with leg kick guys do exactly what he just did to Jock Peterson, Rick, as you were talking about that.
And Kiki Hernandez, understanding that we just talked about, looking for his first hit. Well, he came to Mesa, Arizona, and he found it today.
Well, there you go. He's been pounded on the outside corner all spring, and all smiles getting that first base hit. And Cubs knew that, and they go outside again, try to backdoor a cutter right there, and he stayed on it and shoots one the other way for a clean single.
So that will break the ice for Hernandez. And we should send a message down. It looks like he's going to throw to first, but if he does, ask for the game ball.
There you go.
Jimmy Rollins, a strikeout victim of a breaking ball. Rollins, if you're joining us, was disposed of very quickly. 3 pitches and a strikeout by Lester to open up the ballgame. And that's 4 for 4 pitches in the strike zone to Rollins.
And where Miguel Montero is setting up is exactly what John Lester likes to do to right-handed batters. He wants that catcher way inside because he wants to throw the cutter in. You saw him do it to Van Slyke to end last inning. He believes he can jam guys with it, and most times he does. The curve again. Cutters he'll throw 31% of the time. The fastball, whether it be 4 or 2-seam, mostly 4-seam, 50% of the time. Average velocity about 92 to 93.
And there's a good off-speed pitch. Boy, the Cubs, when they started to go out and get Lester, but imagine adjusting from the fastball, and then there's the breaking ball and lack of speed on top of it.
He's thrown 3 curveballs to Jimmy Rollins, 2 in this sequence. He struck Jimmy Rollins out in the first inning with the curveball. See if he goes cutter now back inside.
He does, and Rollins was looking for it.
Very smart hitter, Jimmy Rollins. He is exactly, Rick. He was definitely looking for it.
And the bat speed, and it's a term that we use so many times, but how quickly you get the hands through the area. Yeah. And that ball was in on him.
Very short to the ball. He knows he's going inside. You can feel the catcher, too, when you set up too soon. You can feel the catcher off your right shoulder setting up in, and Jimmy was anticipating cutter.
Rollins is more than just a physical player. He is a very cerebral type of a player.
Sure is. He gets it.
So 2 on, 2 out here in the 3rd inning. 2-0 Chicago. Chris Heisey looking for his first hit. Trying to follow the act of Hernandez, who collected his first.
There's a straight fastball this time. No cutter. Montero inside, but this time fastball about 93 miles an hour. Sequencing really is the whole game. I mean, between the catcher and the pitcher. The success a pitcher will have.
Slowly hit. And the throw just in time. Rizzo dancing around, doing the toe tap, where Lester gives up a couple of base hits. Dodgers strand 2. It's still 2-0 Chicago. Really, the talk of spring training, a lot of people that have seen him pitch. He's just a youngster. He's still wet behind the ear. But for Urias, he comes on. The young left-hander follows Zach Greinke, who went 2 innings. Greinke made 33 pitches, 25 in the strike zone. But here is a young man that the scouts, you don't even have to ask the scouts, well, what do you think of the young left-hander? They come up immediately and they begin to talk about him. He has a dazzling fastball and a presence on the mound that is not indicative of what the date of birth would say.
No, he is mature beyond his years. The stuff is definitely #1 stuff. Fortunate enough last spring when I was in camp to see him pitch at Camelback Ranch. He struck out 2 that particular game, and I happened to be in the booth with Fernando Valenzuela was in town that day, and of course we were kind of teasing that. He looks like you, maybe going to be better than you, and Fernando dismissed that. Oh no, he's nothing like me, but he's left-handed and he's going to be a projected ace, so that's the comparison.
Well, at some point in time, all he has to do is to physically grow up and collect a few more years under his belt. But there is no time zone really attached to Urias. Question is, with young players, and you would know this because you were part of decisions to keep players as Rizzo takes outside.
Yeah.
1-1. When a young player is maturing, are you hindering the advancement in maybe putting them a little bit over their head too early?
There's just different personalities. There's certain guys that can meet every challenge you give them. I learned that by growing up with a guy that went to the big leagues when he was 18, Robin Yount. We went to high school together, knew Robin forever, and I was shocked when he was in the big leagues. However, he came from a baseball family. His brother pitched in the big leagues.
Left field, and Peterson runs out of room.
And the point being, he was around it, much earlier than in high school. So and he was more mature beyond his years, and he knew how to play the game. There's certain guys like Urias, it just looks like he's been pitching and playing forever, and they can go to the big leagues faster. Now, the arbitration business and the business of baseball today, and why you send guys down and when the clock starts ticking, that's a whole nother story. That's different today. But where can he pitch? I mean, many believe he could be in the big leagues this year at some point.
Well, some hitters would not argue with that. Some that he has faced, not just this spring, but if you look back at last year. Rizzo takes downstairs and the count 2-2. But Urias, you look at him and say, okay, 6'2", of slight build, it looks like on the outside, but he checks in at 205. He's out of Mexico. His first big league camp last year.
He's 18.
Yep.
Right now, birthday is in August the 12th.
And the Dodgers minor league pitcher of the year last year. Rizzo hangs in there tough. Anthony Rizzo has also improved against left-handed pitching.
Sure has. Hanging curveball right there, by the way.
There he is. Culiacan, Mexico. Baseball Americas. Just not those with the Dodgers organization, but then you look at other people that have seen this young left-hander. Rancho Cucamonga, not bad. 109 strikeouts, 87 2/3 innings pitched, and no wonder the minor league pitcher of the year in the Dodgers organization.
And about a 3-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio last year at Rancho as well. So command and control has been pretty good for him for a young guy. He's projected really to start in Double-A this year, and then we'll see where the baseball world takes him from there, depending on how he does.
Starlin Castro is the batter. Castro put some very good numbers together. We quoted those a little bit earlier. He has ability. If you start to analyze, it looks like he has lost a few steps, even at a young age, over the last couple of years. But he makes the same mistakes in the field defensively over and over.
Yeah.
And that drives the Cubs kind of batty and pitching staff too. And at times just looks inattentive, if you will. And it'll turn right around and dazzle you with a play.
Well, I can tell you this, Joe Madden, being around him a lot in 09 and 10, he will not put up with guys that are not engaged defensively, because Tampa Bay had to have good defensive ball clubs when he was there to turn it around. They weren't going to outslug everybody.
Castro, a very impatient hitter, but he has just marvelous hand-eye coordination. He'll hit to all fields. For a shortstop, has very good power.
And for those wondering what the velocity for Urias will get to, he has hit 97, 98. It's anywhere from 93 to 97 on the four-seam fastball. He will throw a two-seamer. You've seen the curveball already, and he's got a good changeup.
Fastball in. Castro did not really get around on that one at all. The other thing about Castro, talk about impatient. He struck out exactly 100 times last year. It's in 528 official at bats, only 35 walks. But trying to tell a young player, look, take a few more pitches. Don't swing at pitches outside the strike zone. He's overly aggressive. Fouled off again. So we'll redo it 3-2.
Well, the problem with that with the Cubs is they had too many guys that had a very poor ratio, strikeout to walk ratio, striking out 140, 150 times and only walking 30 times. And that's why their on-base percentage was near the bottom in baseball, and the strikeouts were right at the top. You can have one or two guys to be the Pablo Sandoval that likes to swing at everything. That's fine, but you can't have 6 or 7.
Payoff pitch. Base hit through the left side, and Rizzo will hold at second base. And back-to-back singles here. Rizzo and Castro for Miguel Montero.
Trying to go in right there with a four-seam fastball, and Castro just turned on it. Got it in the hole on the right side to Jimmy Rollins, who was shading a little bit up the middle.
Mentioning Joe Madden coming over, baseball is looking at the timeline between when Madden notified the Rays, I think I'm leaving, and when Theo Epstein and the Cubs contacted Joe Madden, who was with his cousin Eddie at the time. And in case you don't know the story, cousin Eddie for Joe Madden is his motorhome, a 43-footer. And Madden was in his annual cross-country trip inside cousin Eddie when Epstein called him. And Epstein said, look, we found out that Joe was not going to be with the Rays, and happened to have his cell phone number and caught him. So they flew to Madden, and they had an interview with him in an RV park near Pensacola, Florida. So these three executives fly in, and the interview was done in lawn chairs just outside cousin Eddie.
That's Joe. That is typical Joe Madden right there. I mean, he is not a dress code guy. He doesn't believe in dressing up on planes. I mean, he's got these different ideas of theme trips for the team. You know, in other words, if you're going to play in Houston or in Texas, the Rangers, let's dress up like cowboys. I mean, that's if you're in Anaheim and you're flying back after a night game back home, let's do the pajama trip. And I'm being serious, folks. I mean, I'm not kidding. I lived it as a broadcaster.
That's one school of thought, and there are others. And the other school of thought is you are representing yourself.
Yeah.
You are a Major League Baseball player. You're representing an organization, and you are representing the city.
I agree,
which you
Rick, with you. I come from what you just said. Joe doesn't believe in it. And he said, who are we dressing up for? And, you know, you get in at 3 in the morning. So, I mean, I don't know if he's going to do that in Chicago. I was told by a writer I talked to that covers the Cubs last week that he is so far is going to do everything the same, he said. I said, well, I'll bet some of the theme trips won't fly. What do you think? Because this writer was from Chicago. He said, I agree. He said, it's not funny when you're losing to anybody. I agree with you, though. A dress code was about representing your organization, and I learned that really from the Dodger organization. The dress code started in the minor leagues, not the big leagues.
Well, dress codes have changed, and it depends upon who is setting the codes.
Yep.
Line drive. And the bases are going to be loaded with nobody out.
And quite frankly, just to tell you, one trip to go to play the Yankees, and the team was battling in September for first place. Fastball, and they went right with it. Peterson gets it back in quickly. It was a loudmouth golf pants we had to wear, these crazy golf pants, broadcasters included, and we're flying to play the Yankees, and we landed in a decent time on an off day, and it was embarrassing getting off the bus in Times Square and people looking at you, and you're going in to play the Yankees. And I can tell you a couple players that had come from other organizations, I don't need to name names, went downstairs and met in the lounge area and were having a beverage, and I said, boy, this is ridiculous. I can't. That's embarrassing to come in and play New York and get off the bus wearing that. So some guys didn't buy into it. Let's just put it that way. Not everybody bought into everything that happened, but anyway.
Rick Honeycutt with a trip to the mound. I'll go back into the annals when Conestoga wagons were moving around in this area. Hank Bauer was the manager of then the Oakland A's. In spring training, I arrived late. Little discrepancy between my numbers and the numbers of Charlie Finley in the club. I arrived late, and one afternoon I went to dinner with my roommate that night. I'd not been at the ballpark. The following day at the ballpark, Hank says, "Were you out last night?" I went, "Yes, sir, I was. I went to have dinner." He says, "You have a tie on?" He goes, "No." He says, "$25.
How about that?
Hank Bauer in spring training had to wear a tie after 6 p.m. in spring training.
Unbelievable. Well, I mean, I had kind of a similar thing. My first spring training big league camp with the Orioles in the late 70s. Earl Weaver was managing, and Elrod Hendricks, the great Elrod, saw me downstairs in the hotel lobby in Miami where we trained without a sport coat on.
Coughlin takes his strike.
And Earl stayed in the hotel. And he said, "Don't let the skipper see you." I said, "Why?" He goes, "Will you leave the hotel room in big league spring training camp? You better have a sport coat and slacks on. Don't be seen." And I learned. I said, "Okay." I didn't even have a sport coat.
Then you did late afternoon.
I did immediately. Within an hour, I had went downstairs and took the only charge card I had at the time and bought one and wore it the rest of the spring.
Arias, everywhere that he looks, there is a runner. Dodgers are playing in tightly the corners at first and third. Nobody out, bases loaded. In the third inning, 2-0 Chicago. Young left-hander is running to buzzsaw already. Coughlin, former National League Rookie of the Year, 2009. Outside, 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Ricky did a nice job last year for the Cubs. He hit again. You know, remember that rookie year with the Marlins back in the day that you mentioned, and last year he kind of resurrected himself.
125 games, hit .283. Don't worry about the power department. 9 home runs, but he made pretty good contact. Struck out just 81 times.
Urias needs a strikeout right here. We'll see what he goes to.
Needs a strikeout, or what they call pitcher's best friend. That's a double play. Your best of best friends is the old triple play. But that friend doesn't come around too often. So Urias still has a way to go to get to 20 years of age.
Yeah.
Coughlin is 29.
Already a 24-pitch inning, too, for Leo Urias.
Popped up, but that'll be out of bounds. Coughlin also with 28 doubles, 5 triples to go with the 9 home runs in the 125 games that he played in last year. 9 home runs tied his career high from his rookie year 2009. Again, he was the rookie of the year. It was a good break for Coughlin. Come over here to Chicago.
Yeah, definitely.
2-2. That's going to get a run in, as Heisey will give way to Yasiel Puig. And thinking better of it at second base is Castro. He stays at second, looking and seeing that it was Puig that caught the ball, but a run across on the sac fly, 3-0.
Keeps the double play in order. That was a curveball that Coghlan stayed on right there with 2 strikes. And Don Mattingly is that's the pitch count's up too high, 26 pitches, and that'll be it. And that's the right move for a young guy right there.
Well, they left Urias in to face the left-hander Coghlan, who delivered the sacrifice fly. Mike Olt is the batter. Second trip to the mound this half inning, so Urias is going to be departing. So the weather is warming up, and so far the Cubs, by the way, looking for their first win of the spring. They are 0-6-1, the one tie. Dodgers have a new pitcher. We'll come back and give you who it is and a little bit more from Sloan Park in Mesa, Arizona, right after this. California product David Huff who joined forces with both New York, the Yankees, and the San Francisco Giants last year. Overall, he's combined 4-1. So for Huff, lives in Huntington Beach, born down in San Diego, and he signed out of UCLA. So the left-hander coming on, and he inherits runners at first and second. 1 out, run across, 3-0 Chicago. Mike Olt is the batter.
And he has Manny Grandal going out there so they can get set on the signs that they want with a runner at second base.
Kevin, here's one of those pitchers, and you look at Huff, that really understood how to make adjustments, because he got off to a very bad start, quite frankly, with the Giants. Then he went over to the New York Yankees, and that's when he really started to pitch. 30 appearances with the Yankees. Not only was 3-1, his ERA was below 1.9.
Well, that's interesting because Brendan McCarthy, when he was traded to the Yankees from the D-backs, told us last winter, he said, you know, I said, why are the numbers so great in New York? He said, because they let me pitch how I pitch. He said, they let me throw my cutter. I like to throw the cutter. I wasn't confined. And he said, quite frankly, in Arizona, and he wasn't knocking him, because Brandon's a really nice guy, but he was making a point that he had some constraints on him in Arizona. I'm not sure that Huff did that in San Francisco, but obviously it's a credit to some of the Yankee people there with those two particular pitchers that they got.
David Huff, 30 years of age, primarily with the Cleveland Indians throughout most of his career. Good off-speed pitch right there.
Very good changeup. He threw that pitch last year 11% of the time at about 82 miles an hour. He will throw a four-seam fastball. His velocity average last year just a tick over 92 miles an hour, so a decent fastball. Also mixes in a little slider, curveball, and a cutter.
And another swing and a miss. And that's going to do it for Olt. And he may be scratching his head as a, wait a minute, off speed and a dandy.
He backed it up. Back-to-back changeups right there. I love that pitch because that's the equalizer. When you're looking fastball, and you can throw a changeup and throw up the same arm speed as your fastball, but take off about 10 miles. That's what you get the result. A big hook punch out right there.
Ryan Sweeney walked his first time. Sweeney out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa. His third season with the Cubs. Came over in a minor league deal. 77 games last year with Chicago. Hit .251. Ground ball off the glove, picked up by Rollins, alertly backing up. Another dimension of Jimmy Rollins. Ball off the glove of Hernandez initially.
Now Sweeney just slapping that ball to the left side. Now Hernandez was wide of third and really was there and should have made the play, quite frankly. Not sure what if it took a bad hop or not looking at that replay. But the coverage behind him was great. Jimmy Rollins saves a run.
Bases are loaded again. There is Mendy Alcantara. The Cubs with so much of the spotlight, including their stadium. Historic Wrigley Field, second oldest ballpark. Under renovations, which combined with the weather and the construction schedule will not be ready for opening day, as we understand.
Yeah, when we were there in September, I just remember the people that worked at the stadium were more excited, of course, about that than anything else. The renovations of the stadium, starting with the outfield and the stands. Good fastball, 2-0 pitch. Good location, especially. And the hitters count. Made a good pitch.
Alcantara last year. The Cubs 70 games. He began in Iowa, 89 games there. And he hit 102 points higher in AAA than he did in the big leagues.
Good sequence right there from Huff. Down and away with the fastball and then goes up under the hands of Alcantara.
Huff misses. Count 3-2, and the runners will be moving at first, second, and very slowly off of third.
Well, this pitch right here will tell you what David Huff has confidence in as a put-away pitch. Whether he doubles it up with the changeup again, or he's going to go back up and in with the fastball. We'll see.
There go the runners. Came with a fastball, and Hernandez digs it out at third, and that will do it. David Huff comes in and shuts the door. Tough outing for Julio Urias. Just a third of an inning. Couple of runs across, 3-0 Chicago. Receiving a lubricating injection in his right elbow on the 19th of February. Goes a couple of innings, and your analysis of the outing today by Greinke. His first.
I thought he made some pretty good pitches with his fastball. I mean, he did give up a little bit, but he was working on command, not just throwing strikes. He wanted to hit the corners, and I thought he got squeezed a little bit. But he made some, threw some good curveballs and mixed in a couple of changeups. So I thought for his first time out, Don't really worry about the numbers. I thought he did just fine. The 2 walks, I think you could argue on those that he was squeezed in today's game. So I think he should feel pretty good about walking away today with 2 innings. At the end of the day, he had 29 pitches and 18 of those for strikes.
So Schlitter comes on. The afternoon has been completed by John Lester. Cubs did get some, well, not earth-shattering news, but not good news. Jacob Turner, who was really in the running for the number 5 starting spot, had an MRI. He has been shut down. Flexor strain and a bone bruise in his elbow. So he will open up the season on the disabled list. Schlitter comes on, 61 games last year. And for the Cubs, they have really kind of fortified on the front end of their pitching. Schlitter using that kind of an Alaska look.
I guess. It's pretty popular these days. Talking about dress codes and long hair. That'll fit right in with Joe Madden's club. That's for sure.
So Schlitter will be looking at the Dodgers. Yasiel Puig, Yasmani Grandal, and then Howie Kendrick here. 4th inning, 3-0 Chicago.
Brian Schlitter, by the way, is a predominantly sinker ball pitcher. 82% of his pitches last year were sinkers, and a hard one, 94 miles an hour. We'll mix in a slider, and rarely, he only threw 5 changeups last year. So really, you've got one pitch to look for.
So look for it, get it, and hit it. He made 61 appearances last year with Chicago, coming out of the bullpen. He's also on the disabled list, had some shoulder problems, had a couple of different rehab stints. Up the middle, Castro. Oh, he can field it. Not in time because of the speed of Yasiel Puig, but Starlin Castro, he covers a lot of ground and has a huge glove.
Yeah, that was a nice play by Castro, and Yasiel Puig was running hard right from the get-go. And that's a nice job by Yasiel, too, not taking that for granted. It looked like it had base hit all over it anyway, but Castro showed the range going to his left, and then when he had to do the reverse 360, just couldn't put enough on it. Blazing speed of Yasiel Puig. We talked about Puig yesterday, Rick, a lot. I mean, you've been down here before I got here, and he's been pretty engaged in trying to be a complete player and a good teammate.
Yasmani Grandal takes outside ball 1. Grandal 4 for 12 now as a hitter. Bounced out to second against Lester.
Yeah, Yasmani has had good at-bats down here this spring. We're still talking a lot about some of the receiving issues that Steve Yeager is working with him on. The at-bats have been good. He's got a quiet setup, not too many moving parts. He does have a confidence about him when you talk to him about hitting. He knows he can hit. He believes he can hit. He thinks he's going to hit 25, 30 home runs.
You mentioned growing up in Cuba, they have everybody learn how to switch hit.
Right.
Which really kind of makes sense if you're coordinated and can handle it. And I'm reminded of a conversation I had with the great Maury Wills. And we spent some time with the captain today at Camelback Ranch, Glendale, before coming over to Mesa. And a conversation with Maury once, I said, Maury, slumps, I mean, there's nothing good about slumps from a mental standpoint, from a physical standpoint. How on earth did you survive as a switch hitter if you had a slump? And he brought up something interesting. I need to ask Grandal this and some of the other guys. Maury Wills said he was never in a slump from both sides at the same time.
I've heard him say that more than once. Yeah, it's amazing to me. I love that story, Rick, about Maury. I've heard him say that, and it's amazing to think about that. You know what I'm going to ask him now that you said that? Tomorrow I'm going to ask him, did you ever go into a slump from one side so bad that if it was a left-handed pitcher, you stayed hitting left-handed, for example?
Some guys do that.
Yeah.
When just about everything else fails.
Yeah. It's the last resort. Well, I'm intrigued by Grandal because of what he told us a couple of times about his power from the right side, although we haven't seen it. We've seen him hit the ball the other way down here from the right side.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that swing right there.
No, it's a good.
That was a ball
swing.
that was down. The Yasmani Grandal tracked it exceptionally well, and Yasiel Puig did a good job getting back at first.
He sure did. You know, you're taught to freeze on a line drive, one crossover step, and he got back immediately. Puig did. There it is. Bullet shot hit by Yasmani Grandal from the left side of the plate down here. He has really hit the ball hard.
So there's one down. Here's Howie Kendrick. Kendrick and Rollins spend so much time together. They're trying to come inside on Kendrick, the first pitch. And that pitch is right to the glove of Montero. 0-1 to count. And you're really looking at history when you look at a double play combination. Consider the fact that Kendrick, 6 years, that double play combination with Eric Aybar of the Angels. And then you look at the shortstop position, short and second, involving Jimmy Rollins. Rollins and Chase Utley played together for 11 years and played 1,187 games that they started at second and short together. Is that a significant number? Yes, it's second all time.
Wow.
Shortstop double play combinations. Starting games. The two that lead that, Alan Trammell and Lou Whitaker with the Detroit Tigers. They started together 1,607 games.
Wow. Well, that would tell you why. I mean, there wasn't a ball that was hit that each guy didn't know where the other one was going to be. And how hard the feed was going to be on a double play, for example.
In the dirt, and easily down is Yasiel Puig to second base. But the point being now is that when you look at the double play combination of these two veteran players, Rollins has already said that he gets the ball differently from Kendrick.
Yeah. There's a poor job of blocking by Montero, to be honest with you. You've got to get your both knees down. Talk about that. I don't know why I see catchers not getting their feet out from underneath them to some other balls, because when you do that, number one, it's the quickest way down. Number two, your upper body will cover the ball like a spoon and bring it right back to center. Instead, they stand up, they go down on one leg, and the Dodgers will take the what would be considered a wild pitch.
Kendrick waiting 2-2. What Rollins was saying is that Howie Kendrick feeds the ball to him at second base with higher velocity than what Chase Utley gave the ball to him. But they talk about scenarios. I touched upon this the other day. They talk about scenarios such as Rollins says, look, if I go up the middle and I'm diving for the ball, here's how you might look for the throw. If I go into the hole, and he's talking also with Juan Uribe. They need to find out what's the angle that Uribe can go.
Right.
And Adrian Gonzalez needs to learn the range now of Howie Kendrick.
That's absolutely right.
So it's like a ballet on the infield. And you have to talk, and quite frankly, Rollins and Kendrick are together just about all the time, except when they're eating dinner.
Well, that's why you'll see them together in just about every start they will have this spring, for the very reasons you just talked about. Jim Reynolds not calling that strike that the two-seam fastball ran back out around the outside corner is what Jim Reynolds was saying. It went around the plate. Didn't hit the white of home plate, so no call.
There's that plate is 17 inches wide, and then it has the black strip around it. And most pitchers and catchers will say that that bordering area on the plate belongs to them. Hitters will say,
They sure do. Yeah. They say, hey, that was on the black, Jim. Come on. And they'll say, no, on the black, that's a ball. Well, at least he's consistent, because Greinke thought he had a couple of pitches, and I did too, but it doesn't matter what I think. Jim Reynolds is calling the game the way he sees it, and really by the book.
The book is rather definitive as far as lateral interpretation of strike zone. The book is way off as far as the height. Good play, backhand at third, but a wild throw. And Howie Kendrick will have a base hit. He's 2 for 2 this afternoon. Not a bad stop at third by Holt, but that's a long throw after a backhand.
Yeah, not really sure that's an advised throw to make, but you got a big first baseman over there, and Holt took a chance in doing it. Howie Kendrick running hard right out of the box, but it's a nice pick going across the line right there.
this inning, and Kevin, we've shown Yasiel Puig and now with Howie Kendrick, and it's really kind of the theme song of what we've seen so far this spring. The runners running hard. Oh, it's spring training. Well, there's no aches and pains right now, at least in the legs. But that's kind of the theme song that Don Mattingly and his coaching staff gave to this Dodger ball club. Day one is spring training. Hey, look, guys, we're not here to just go through the motions. We have a job to do, and we want to get to the World Series. Well,
you hear managers every spring talk about playing the game the right way, and that's what playing the game the right way is. Running hard every time. Not just when you got a base hit, or not when you're when you pop the ball up or you hit the ball on the ground at somebody. Make them make a play. Make them make an error on you.
1-0 to Van Slyke, and now it's 2 balls and no strikes.
Force the defense to make a mistake by playing hard. If you get a reputation of always running hard and playing hard, you're going to force some of those infielders to rush plays, and they're going to make some mistakes.
Notice something with Van Slyke last year, and he stands a country mile from home plate, has the open stance, and he hits one. Oh, nice stop. Oh, does he get Puig? No. Yasiel Puig goes around the line. We're allowed a body length. We do not have the replay as far as the challenge available in spring training, but right on top of it was the third base umpire.
Well, it started, like you said, Rick, with Old. He's looking at second after picking the ball. He knows he's got no chance from his knees to throw out the runner, the batter runner, so he tries to get Yasiel Puig, and from that angle, good shot by our camera crew. Yasiel Puig was not out of the baseline, and he gets in there safely.
Excellent camera work indeed. So Van Slyke is aboard with an infield single. The Dodgers a chance now to put some runs on the board. 1 out, bases are loaded. Justin Turner serving as the designated hitter, grounded out to shortstop.
And you know, Van Slyke runs better than people may know. He's a big guy, but he actually can steal a base once in a while if you need him to.
Turner takes a strike. My point on Van Slyke, I noticed last year, earlier in the year, and with Van Slyke, we showed the stance. He stands a long way from the plate, open stance. A lot of clubs try to go away from him early.
Yep.
And they got burned because he would hit the ball with power to right center field. And then they tried to crowd him with balls. And that didn't work particularly well.
No.
And that's kind of the routine of baseball. You come up and they try and find if you have a weakness for a certain location or a certain pitch. There were no weak spots with Justin Turner last year.
No, and what Justin does well, that really helped him, is use the field, go the other way. I mean, he can do that with the best of them. And he tries to. It's by design.
Left center. Dexter Fowler will not get this one, and for the Dodgers, they're not fortunate that the ball bounced over the fence. If it stays in play, they might get 3, but everybody's going to be called back. Ground rule double. Couple of RBIs by Justin Turner, who comes through yet again.
Well, Justin getting a chance to play on back-to-back days. Yesterday they played first base, and today, of course, DHing. And boy, that was a high fastball up and in, and he got his hands through that, cleared his hips, and drove it a long ways. And you're right, that would have cleared the bases had it not been the ground rule double and gone into the stands.
So a 2-run double by Justin Turner. Now it's a 3-2 Cub lead. Jock Peterson struck out against the starter, the left-hander John Lester, trying to pick up at least the tying run. For Peterson, a very narrow stance and a wild swing. And again, that stance, and it's less than shoulder width apart to begin with. The problem is, I'm talking to some of the Dodger personnel today, earlier this morning, he has a tendency to have a longer stride. That leg kick, we saw him before, did not get the foot back down on the ground in time. And less of a leg kick, and that's a very good at bat because you have a run that is being given to you with an infield back, and Jock Peterson ties the game with a ground out.
Just as you're talking about it, he all of a sudden goes back down to the smaller leg kick. I love that, and ties the score right there. Took a chance on the first swing to hit a gap or hit a home run, and then after that he put the ball in play and gets the RBI. And that's really what we're talking about, the theme that Don Mattingly, as you mentioned, Rick, has presented. Just play the game the right way. Do the little things.
And for Jock Peterson, that is a very professional approach in that at bat. Oh, it's spring training. Nobody will remember in 2 days what took place in this game here, much less the score. But how do you execute during the game? Kiki Hernandez now looking for his first hit of the spring last time and collected it with a line drive single to right field.
He thought that was down. Jim Reynolds says no.
Reynolds has not made a whole lot of friends today.
No, I don't think so.
And he's not going to lose an ounce of sleep over.
No, he's not.
The Castro, and that's going to do it. But the Dodgers come up with 3 runs. They got there on 4 hits. The big blast, Justin Turner's 2-run double to right center field. And we got a tie game in Mesa, Arizona between the Dodgers and the Cubs. Doing in the Valley of the Sun. And for the Dodgers, it's shining a little bit more brightly. The sun, that is, coming up with 3 runs to make it a 3-3 tie. Temperatures in the mid-80s. And you can still guarantee your seat, by the way, for opening day. Now, many plans are still available that include opening day, all 10 bobbleheads, fireworks nights, 4th of July, Father's Day barbecue set, and a Tommy Lasorda garden gnome. Many more great promotions. Don't miss out on. So make sure you get there early, Kevin, for the garden Tommy Lasorda garden gnome. David Huff came on and got the final 2 outs in the 3rd inning. We'll start it off here in the 4th. Baxter running up the bunt. Baxter had a 2-run single. Also a stolen base back in the 2nd inning. 3-3 tie. Dodgers moving over. Takes about 35 minutes without traffic.
Yeah.
That is the other ingredient of the Valley of the Sun.
It's
now with traffic.
Changed. Oh, yeah.
And it used to be downtown Phoenix. Whenever you went east or west, you kind of knew when you were going from one city to the next. There was a buffer area, desert.
Yeah.
And a remote area was off to our right to the east, Superstition Mountains. But not anymore. Rollins, the backhand, deep in the hole. Oh, he's amazing. Not only gets the ball, but he collects his feet in order to help him throw it as he's making the transfer.
Yeah, he planted nicely, read it perfectly, backhanded it smoothly. 7.5 steps again to one to his right and threw a bullet over there to Scott Van Slyke. Scott, a nice stretch.
A nice play by Rollins. Dexter Fowler is the hitter.
I'm going to tag that what you said, Rick. It has really changed here, hasn't it? I mean, you went to Arizona State, so you've really seen it change. And I have too. We used to have instructional league with the Dodgers back in the 80s in Mesa, as a matter of fact, at Oakland. And it was all desert. No freeways.
Yeah.
I mean, the freeways did not go all around the whole Metroplex here. I mean, it's totally changed.
I remember years and years ago when the Houston Colt 45s came into being. They trained in Apache Junction, which is at the base of the Superstition Mountains to the east of us.
Yep.
And while it is nice to be here and see their new ballpark and see the Cubs and so many people, I think the baseball world is still saddened by the loss of one of the truly great players and wonderful people.
Without a doubt.
And Mr. Cub, Ernie Banks, his passing in late January. Ernie was always inspirational. I joined the Cubs, and Ernie was a coach. I respectfully have Ernie's retired number, his Hall of Fame number 14. The grass pattern out in center field. Ernie played over 2,500 games in his Hall of Fame career. Got the Baseball's Hall of Fame in 1977. Swing and a miss. Remember when Ernie was with the ball club, we would land in the wee hours of the morning. Didn't matter what the airport was. Did not matter what time it was. 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. Getting off an airplane, going to get the bus, going to the hotel, and there was Ernie Banks walking through the airport. How you doing? How you doing? Yeah. We're the Chicago Cubs. We're going to play a game. Good day for two.
Always the
and
same.
That's exactly what Ernie was about.
What a nice man. I remember meeting him one of the Dodger fantasy camps. Said they had a Hall of Fame camp from time to time. Guy Wellman used to run. Still does.
High fly ball and a long run for Puig. And he made the catch.
Wow.
Don't tell me that spring training doesn't bring out the best. Yasiel Puig ran a country mile and a half. Not a country mile, even more. You talk about a great play. Can he play center field? Well, let the pictures tell the story.
High and long and deep. Tracked it the whole way. Picked it off.
Made that fantastic catch out of the deepest part of right center field, was checked over by the medical department as returned to the Dodgers first base dugout. We mentioned he ran a long, long way. A long way indeed, and waiting for it was a fence.
Well, he tracked it the whole way, and I'll tell you, I thought it was gone off the bat. I think Anthony Rizzo thought it was gone. He's got that high, majestic launch type power, and Yasiel Puig leaped and picked it right up against the fence and showed the baseball. You're right, Rick, about it's not just spring training. We've been talking about the theme of Don Mattingly wanting these guys to be prepared and play the game the right way. We talked a lot about Puig, who's engaged not just offensively, he's engaged more defensively than I've ever seen him, and that was a phenomenal play.
Well, left-hander Phil Cook becomes the third Cub pitcher used here this afternoon. And for Koch, signed a minor league contract just a few days ago. In fact, 4 days ago. Spent 5 seasons with the Tigers organization. So he has pitched in all or parts of 7 major league seasons there with the Yankees and the Tigers. So left-hander coming on. It's the top of the order, Jimmy Rollins. Showing bunt, but more of a decoy than anything else. Rollins, Heisey, and then Puig will come on to bat.
Is Phil Koch thinner in the Cub uniform, or is he in better shape than I've ever seen him?
Maybe a combination of both.
Wow. Looks good.
Well, for Koch, he has, in his career, been effective against left-handed batters at .243 average. But the righties, well, not so good. .303 average against the left-hander. But he finished in fine stretch. Did not allow a run last year in 12 of his last 14 outings. And in that time, an ERA of under 1.7.
Got a big fastball.
Yeah. Well, the Cubs came in with 60 players in camp. 33 of those are pitchers. So they have some arms.
And they need some arms, because that was the killer last year. They're pitching. They had some decent bullpen arms. Pretty good closer in Rondon, but they finished near the bottom in pitching.
Popped up, foul. Rizzo, and not able to make the play. That was a tough angle to try and go back and get the ball.
The National League, the team ERA was 13th. The starting pitcher's ERA at 4.11 was 13th. Save percentage was 13th in the National League, and that's
beginning to see a trend.
Why you see so many pitchers in camp that Joe Madden can't select from. But Koch has a big arm, 95 average with the fastball last year. He'll mix in a change, got a little slider, occasional curveball, and cutter. Got a 4 or 5 pitch mix.
Another foul, and it'll be another bat for Jimmy Rollins. Expiration date expired on that.
Jimmy's played well today. He had a nice base hit in the 3rd inning after waving at a curveball, seeing a couple of curveballs from John Lester. He knew a slider, or cutter, excuse me, was coming in on him, and boy, did he square it up nicely. Good bat speed. Clean single to left field.
No balls and 2 strikes. Rollins leading it off. Dodgers trying to win their 5th game of the spring. They're 4-1-3. 3 ties, including each of the last 2 games they played. Got it. New bat or not, Rollins a strikeout pick.
There's that 95 fastball of Phil Koch. Just got it just above the hands, or Jimmy just couldn't quite get to it. Underneath it.
Big ballpark, and you can see a lot of people here. They set the all-time spring training record in the Cactus League just a couple of days ago. A record that had been held by the Dodgers, quite frankly, at Camelback Ranch, Glendale. So new facilities here, Sloan Park in Mesa, Arizona.
Rick, what was this area right here back in the day? Desert?
Desert.
All desert.
You know what was next to it?
More desert.
Desert.
We were talking about that driving in together today. I mean, I looked to the right near Arizona State, and I saw all these new high rises, and I'm going, wow, what is going on? I mean, they're just expanding and building. And it's growing and growing.
Heisey takes inside. 2 balls and no strikes.
This is still considered Mesa. You kind of think it is near Tempe, not too far, but it's still Mesa. Sloan Park. And they built up around it. You were talking about that, how they built up the restaurants and condos around this place.
They have for Mesa, for those not familiar with it, it's Phoenix, and if you go a little east, there's Tempe, and then Mesa is a little bit more east and slightly to the south a little bit. They spent so many years, they being the Cubs, at Hohokam Park. The original ballpark that teams used to work out in no longer exist. Rendezvous Park.
Oh, I remember the name. Yeah.
And I don't think they had to tear it down. I think it fell down. But that was high fences, all wooden fences.
I heard about it. Yeah.
With shuffleboard courts behind the right field fence.
Well, that's fun.
Good foul. For Chris Heisey, the veteran and a valuable man coming off the bench. And there are not too many people, quite frankly. We talked about Justin Turner, what he can do. You think over the years of Dave Hansen coming off the bench for the Dodgers and being so successful as a pinch hitter. Well, Chris Heisey has that ability to do that as well. And that's not made for everybody.
No, it's not.
And he draws the walk.
3-2, like a slider in the dirt by Phil Coke. It's kind of been one of his problems watching Coke over the years. It's almost too many pitches for him. He's got really listed as 6 different pitches.
I thought it was a little funny that Coke looked to his catcher, Montero, who went over near the Dodgers' first base dugout to retrieve that ball, and Coke kind of took his bare hand and tapped himself on the chest and says, "That's on me." Of course it is.
Yeah, you bet it's on you.
Here is Yasiel Puig.
Well, Heisey's interesting too, because not only can he come off the bench and hit one out of the ballpark, he can steal a little bit. He's got decent speed.
Yeah, and surprising speed. Puig takes inside. One of the things about Yasiel Puig, again, when he came back into the first base dugout, he checked the left shoulder. Well, he's still kind of moving around, but he beats himself up with the bat anyway.
He does.
Slaps his left shoulder, his right shoulder, his back.
That's his routine. That's how he gets ready.
Slammed to left, but right at the glove of Coughlin, and 1 out. A loud out. So he takes away a base hit, extra base hit. Yasiel Puig does, and has nothing to show for it. Swinging the bat and hit it about 100 miles an hour to left field.
It was a laser to left field. He just dropped the head right there very quick. They tried to pound him in, and I know Coke wasn't trying to go down and in. They wanted to go up and in, and Yasiel just laid the bat down on it. Fortunately, hit it right at somebody.
You know, Coke just took that ball that never hit the ground and threw it out of the game.
Yeah, threw it out.
I don't think there is many pitchers now that understand what you can do with a ball that is either hit so hard that's slightly out of round, or one that has been scuffed because it has hit the ground, not because someone has defaced it.
I agree. I don't get it. I guess that was too loud of an out for him, so he threw it out, but it's got a dent in it right now.
Well, some guys are superstitious. If a ball's hit hard, they want a different baseball, even if it results in an out.
That's right. Probably more of that than anything
Here's
else.
Grandal, who's 0 for 2. Off the end of the bat, easy play for Castro, and that's going to do it. No runs, no hits, a walk, and a man left through 4.5, tied at 3.
I want to see you at Dodger Stadium.
Just go to the bullpen, and 23-year-old right-hander Zach Lee, who was the top pick for the Dodgers 2010 in that draft. Entering now his 5th professional season. And trying to turn around what was a disappointing 2014, 7-13 with an ERA of 5.3. And the ability does not match the record.
No, it doesn't. He gave up 177 hits in those 150 and 2/3 innings last year in Albuquerque. The strikeout ratio was 2-1, 97 strikeouts, 54 walks in those 27 starts he had in Albuquerque, and 7-13 overall. And my understanding and talking to some of the AAA coaches, just he didn't have great command of his fastball. And of course, Albuquerque is high elevation and a hitter's ballpark. But there's been many great pitchers that have pitched there and gone on and done well in the big leagues as well.
Starlin Castro leading it off. He's 1 for 2. Dodgers also made a couple of other changes. Zaraga's now doing the catching. Corey Seager, 6'4" youngster that's drawing a lot of fanfare and getting a lot of scrutiny by other organizations now, looking at him and the talent playing it short. So pop up an easy play for Scott Van Slyke. Schebler's also taken over in left field. By the way, you can still guarantee your seat for opening day. Now just visit Dodger Stadium Friday from 9 in the morning until 6 p.m. Now you can purchase an opening day mini plan and even take your picture with the 1981 World Series trophy. Yep. It'll also help you plan your next group outing to Dodger Stadium. So just visit Dodgers.com/open house.
Yeah, Schebler's in left field, and then Jock Peterson moves to center field, so Yasiel Puig is out after having a pretty good day. Nice running catch. Stopped the ball by Baxter from becoming a double. They're driving in 3 runs. Turned out to be a single to drive in 2. And just hit a frozen rope and also had a base hit and scored a run today. So a good day for Yasiel Puig.
A good one indeed, and will not get a bill for bruising the wall either. There was a line someone last year when Puig was moved over to center field. I asked me, I said, well, what do you think about Puig playing center? I said, we can play center. I said, but I don't know if you want him to play there. I said, why? Well, if he's in right field, there's only a possibility of running into 1 outfielder. If he's in center, there could be 2.
And the outfielders were aware of that too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jock Peterson is out there. Peterson is also, and the way it's going, he may be the opening day center fielder. And if he is, the Dodgers will really have not the skate save, but the shin save. And it works. We'll find out if he's going to be all right. But for Peterson, the way he runs the ball down, the Dodgers will have maybe one of their true center fielders for the first time in a period of time. And some may say, well, wait a minute, Matt Kemp won a Gold Glove playing in center field a few years ago. Yes, he did. But not primarily a center fielder. And at the time, Matt Kemp was able to use the afterburner, that excessive speed at the last second. Then it's going to be interesting to see if he's been able to recapture that dimension now with the San Diego Padres.
Right. That's a great point, because it wasn't about the jump so much for Matt, because there were many times Matt was flat-footed also, like a lot of outfielders are these days. But he had the extra burst of speed, and that was apparent that last year it didn't come back yet, at least in center field. So he's finally moved to left field. That turned out to be a disaster. And when we were in Pittsburgh and Matt was finally moved to right field and Puig to center, and Carl Crawford, of course, was in left, that was probably the best outfield that they played at that time. Matt was much better in right, his normal spot. And Puig did okay out there in center.
Well, Peterson is in center. That's going to set the stage. Yes, Andre Ethier is in the fold. And Ethier has seen a lot of action so far this spring. Here's Chris Coghlan starting. And for Zach Lee, he may have an easy inning. And there's Jock Peterson, who covers a lot of ground. He throws a souvenir into the crowd as well. 3 up and 3 down on a gorgeous day in Arizona. Hope the weather's as good as where you are. We're tied here in Mesa. Sloan Park in Mesa, Arizona. And a good crowd on hand, and they have been entertained with this game so far. 3-3 tie. Dodgers again against the Cubs. The Cubs looking for the first victory of the spring. They're 0-6-1. The Dodgers have won 4, lost 1, and tied 3. So a lot of people in the stands. There's going to be a lot of people on the field. It's early goings in spring training. You get new players. And a couple of changes also for the Cubs. We'll pass those along to you. The big right-hander, Gonzalez Herman. Madden checks his lineup card along with Dave Martinez, his bench coach.
Good man, Davey. Deserving of a chance to manage in the big leagues. And when Joe Madden left to come here to Chicago, Davey was left alone back there, and he did not obviously get the Tampa Bay Rays job, and most of the players and people thought he was going to get it, but he did not. And at that time, that's when Joe Madden took him with him to Chicago.
Joe working with that lineup card. And the first pitch to Howie Kendrick is in there for the strike by Gonzalez Herman. To right field, what had been overcast, a high overcast, is now kind of bright sunshiny. So there's one down. I want to remind you, join us for the next episode of Connected With, as the legendary Oral Hershiser sits down with the Dodgers coaching staff to discuss the goals of the upcoming season. Don't miss Connected With coaching staff. That'll be tomorrow at 10:30 p.m. right here on Sportsnet LA. One down for Scott Van Slyke.
Herman is out of the Dominican Republic. Originally, Rick, he was signed as a free agent with the Mets in 2007. 6'2" right-hander. 27 years of age right now. Birthday is in late September.
Signed a little
slide
bit,
ball right there.
Signed a little bit later age as well.
Yeah, the Mets designated him for assignment on January the 13th of this year, and the Cubs picked him up 10 days later. Kind of goes back to what you were talking about earlier with and we were talking about the Cubs pitching. Joe Madden is and his staff acquiring as many pitchers as he can to choose from to try to improve that pitching staff. A lot of competition.
Bat splintered off the end of the bat. Jonathan Herrera gets to the ball game at shortstop. Makes that play. And they're 2 up and 2 down here at the top of the 6th inning. Herrera taking over at short for Starlin Castro. A couple of other changes also is now coming to home plate. Justin Turner. Besides Herrera at short, Chris Valenca is taking over at first base. Albert Almora is in center field. Matt Seeker is playing in left. That time of the game where we see a lot of changes.
I think because of the design of Major League Baseball today in spring training, with 15 teams, especially here in the Phoenix Metroplex area, I think it gives many more minor leaguers more opportunities to be seen by the big league manager and staff than ever before.
Swing and miss, good breaking ball. Of course, in spring training, in the early goings, you want to be able to see your roster. You're bringing in a lot of different players. And again, the story with the Dodgers, on the 40-man roster, there are 19 new faces. So obviously, you're going to have a great turnover during any particular game of players. The veterans know exactly what kind of their time schedule is because they understand their body.
Absolutely. You don't have to worry about those guys.
Adrian Gonzalez not making this trip today. Stays back at Candleback Ranch. Gets some extra work in. But Gonzalez is one of those guys that likes to get a lot of at-bats.
Yeah, and he had good at-bats yesterday in the game against the Rockies. He had a 12-pitch at-bat. He had another, I think it was a 9 or 10-pitch at-bat.
And for kind of normal terms for Justin Turner to get another base hit. He's 2 for 3 today, and he knocked in 2 with that double in the 4th inning.
That's 2 high fastballs for hits today. The high fastball for the double. They tried to go in on him in his last at bat, and he had a 2-run double, a ground rule double. And this one was a high fastball, and he just rifled it right back to center field. So he's got the timing down today of that leg kick that he has.
Jock Peterson, who knocked in a run with an infield out. His last time up, he's 0 for 2, but has a RBI to show for it. And one of the things we talked about, Kevin, is the fact that he did make an adjustment. The second pitch thrown to him to make sure he got the ball on the right side of the infield and picked up the run.
Sure did.
And there is the higher leg kick, but you can see the upper part of the body. And that's not a controlled stride to try and get to the ball.
It's a real quick high leg kick, too. That's the other thing. Some guys in the past that have had the big leg kick, I think of Juan Gonzalez, had more of the hanging type leg kick.
Right field, playable. Shielding his eyes from the sun is Ryan Sweeney, and that'll do it. A 2-out single by Turner, a runner left on base. And we are still tied at 3 runs apiece. Card. Brought a lot of troops over here on this trip. Some of them entered. There's some defensive changes right now. I'm just writing those down and we'll bring you the changes as soon as we get an opportunity. I want to remind you tomorrow night, kind of a different twist, because September 8, 1965, Bert Campaneris, the shortstop, primarily the shortstop with the then Kansas City A's, played on 9 positions in a ballgame at the Major League level. First time that happened. And tomorrow night, the Dodgers will be in Peoria to face the San Diego Padres. And Will Ferrell, noted comedian and actor, is going to go, I believe it's 2 or 3 different ballparks. And Will Ferrell, in a fundraiser attempt to help cure cancer, is going to participate in spring training games, and he is going to play all 9 positions, including with the Dodgers and the Padres tomorrow night. Ground ball, dug out, and not in time over at first base.
Took a little bit too much time looking at the baseball to make sure he had it, and by the time he looked up, he had a base runner flying down the line right there. Nice pick over there by Dixon, who's now in it playing first base. At least knocked it down. Popped out of his glove afterwards, but it didn't matter. It was safe anyway. You'll be doing that game, Rick.
And Sweeney is the batter. We'll be doing that game tomorrow night. Matt Excursion and Mark Grant. Bert Campaneris in playing all 9 games, or 9 positions. He was the leadoff batter. He went 0 for 3. But he began the game at shortstop, went to second, then to third, left field, center field, right field, first base, pitcher, and then he caught. And if you can imagine Bert Campaneris in catching gear.
Well, how big was Campy, first of all?
Campy is about 5'9".
5'9", okay.
Maybe 5'9". One of the great shortstops, and maybe overlooked for his ability at shortstop position, and as good of a player as he was, even a nicer person.
Never met him.
Ran into Campy at a restaurant in Scottsdale last year. I turned around, and lo and behold, he's at the table behind me with his wife, and I hadn't seen him in a while, and it was really neat.
That's cool.
And
that's awesome.
When you see somebody that you have respected,
yeah,
and it was emotional. But Campaneris,
I was actually, being from LA, watching that game, and I was telling you the other day, knowing that you were going to do this game tomorrow night, and I asked you, I said, it had to be the Angels, right?
It was the Angels, and the first batter that Campy faced in that game was Jose Cardinal. Ground ball. Dixon, who's just in at first base, makes the catch, and going down to second is Oak. We'll have the game tomorrow. Starts at 6:10 as the first pitch. Will Ferrell, by the way, I had heard that he might pitch for the Dodgers and maybe play the outfield for the Padres. We're really not certain. And Will Ferrell is going to go to different ballparks. Now, if there's any traffic, depending upon the innings that he plays, there is a likelihood that he could be transported from one stadium to the next in a helicopter.
That's amazing, because he might have to be with the traffic here in this area now.
But Will Ferrell had looked at this as a possibility to make an impact and raise money. He's been touched, as every family has, some way or another,
right,
by cancer. And using baseball in this magnificent game as a platform. So that's going to be something, and we'll find out from Will. We don't know how much time he's going to be able to spend with us on the air, but it's going to be for a great cause, a great awareness, and hope everybody joins us. Dixon knocks it down, picks it up, and Zach Lee is just barely in time to the dance.
That's a great play by Dixon, knocking it down to make sure it didn't get by him, because certainly if it goes into right field, it's the go-ahead run for the Cubs. That's an excellent defensive play. Sacrifice his body, and you're right. I think Zach Lee saw the ball hit so hard he froze before he broke toward first base, but did indeed just get there in time.
Dixon has done a very good job in the time that we have seen him at first base. By the way, Campaneris is a follow-up on that conversation. He's not the only one in Major League Baseball that has played all 9 positions in a game. The second one to do it was Cesar Tovar with the Minnesota Twins against the A's. I played in that game. Shane Halter has done it. Scott Sheldon did it.
Cesar Tovar, I'm always curious, Rick, when in that game you were in with him, I'm always curious how they catch and how they pitch once they get to those 2 spots.
Well,
was it good?
Well, here's what it Campaneris in pitching went 1 inning, 1 run, 1 hit.
Okay.
Had a strikeout, walked 2. Cesar Tovar went 1 inning, no runs, no hits, had a strikeout.
Wow.
And he faced Campaneris, who had done it 3 years prior.
Oh, is that right?
He faced Reggie Jackson, who struck him out. Danny Cater walked. Tovar balked with Sal Bando at the plate, and then Bando fouled out to third.
By the way, I just have to jump in. That was an excellent block right there by the Dodger catcher, Zaraga. That's how you block a ball. Both knees down, covered up, smothered it, and saved a run right there. Steve Yeager will love that one. Did Tovar have a big arm? A good, like a plus arm defensively?
Not
really.
No. The problem as a hitter, when you're facing a non-pitcher, a position,
you're supposed to get a hit, right?
You're expected to get a base hit, and basically it's hard to hit what you refer to as garbage pitches.
Yeah, probably threw 72 miles an hour.
Tovar did it in '68. Holder did it in 2000. And Halter did it in 2000, and Sheldon also did it in 2000. So no surprise towards the end of the season. And looking forward to Will Ferrell. You know, one of the problems that Will Ferrell's going to have tomorrow, playing 9 positions. I guess it's going to be like, I don't know, it's going to be with 9 different innings. It's going to be with different teams changing uniforms, I would imagine, or does he have one stock uniform that maybe he wore the movies?
Maybe, I'm guessing the stock uniform.
And that would be the best way to go.
Yeah.
The shortstop, and an easy inning. So Zach Lee continues and completes his 2nd inning work here in Mesa. Gives up a base hit of those 2 innings, and we go to 7. Still, yeah, same thing. Tied at 3. As the clouds kind of moving around as a warm afternoon. Temperatures expected to be around mid-80s. By the way, don't miss your chance to hop on board the Southwest Airlines Spring Training Express. It's hosted by AM 570 KLAC right here to spring training on March 13th. Now it includes airfare, your hotel, and the ball games, all included. To enter, just pick up the phone. Give them a call, 562-5-GO-BLUE. Before the game ends today, leave your name and phone number. The winner's going to be notified after the game, but you have to be responding by midnight tonight, or another winner is going to take your place, and you are going to miss out. Francisco Bueno is into the ball game, and a long drive to center, and a good catch made by Almora, who just came into the ball game. So Francisco Bueno, nothing Malo about this one.
That pitch had a little cut to it, and Guerrero gave it a ride a long way. Almora kind of tracked it the whole way instead of finding where the wall was and just running to the spot. And he's fortunate he made the play, but turns out the right way. He makes the catch.
Corey Seager, who has caught a lot of attention. Very quiet batting stance. There's not a whole lot of wasted motion. He has shown a very discerning eye. He's drawn 5 walks in the spring. Check swing there, and it will cost him a strike. One of the few times, quite frankly, we've seen an offer at all that has not been right on the money by Corey Seager. Seager, we also made mention and waved at in this, and that's going to do it. Seager the other day had that game-winning base hit to end the game. And instead of going right in the locker room, Charlie and I were noticing that he went down the left field line and signed autographs for about 30 minutes.
Wow.
Some of the kids were out there. And those are the points that
give it back.
Kind of register high and say, well, look, he's a responsible young man and passing along the good fortunes of you're in uniform, and a lot of kids are looking up and in awe.
He gets it. That's nice.
Chris Heisey, 0 for 2. He's also drawn the walk. Starting in right field today. Scott Schebler would be next. He's on deck.
Bueno, by the way, pitched for the Royals in 30 games last year. Out of the bullpen, 32 and a third innings, 20 strikeouts, 7 walks.
So Bueno was muy bueno.
He was okay. He was bueno in Kansas City. Signed with the Cubs. Another one of those signs, off-season signings.
A good movement. Bueno, 34 years of age.
Yeah, been around. Signed February the 6th. Just a little over a month ago.
And strike 3. Picked up by Lopez, who just took over behind the plate, and that's going to do it. Well, Bueno was just that. Muy bueno. Dodgers are gone in the 7th. We head to the bottom half. 3-3 tie. Dodger dugout not as crowded as it was at the opening of this ball game. We've seen a good game so far, tied at 3. We've also seen some very good plays, and none of them any better than what Yasiel Puig put in. Well, a circus catch.
Anthony Rizzo thought he had a home run, and Yasiel Puig did not give up on it. Ran a long distance right up against the wall, tracked it into the glove. David Huff thought as soon as that ball was hit, he put his head down and that ball was gone. And Yasiel Puig didn't take a home run away, but certainly a double, maybe a triple from Anthony Rizzo.
Chris Reed, the left-hander, comes on. 20 starts a season ago. It was starting Zach Greinke, who went 2 innings. And the good news with Greinke is not really the base hits or the 2 runs and the 2 hits that he gave up. Remember, he had a lubricating injection in his right elbow on the 19th of February. So this was technically his first start. And the ball fouled off and down the line. A couple of changes. In fact, more than just a couple of changes besides Reed. In left field is Alex Guerrero now. Peterson had earlier moved over to center. Jensen is in right. Arabuena is now playing at third base. Seager at short. Sweeney is at second. Dixon still at first base. And there is Sweeney, and throws just in time. Slow roller, and they get him by an eyelash. Well, I want to remind you on Saturday we'll bring you the next episode of Talking Blue as Orel Hershiser, Jerry Hairston Jr., that is, and Ned Colletti will sit down and talk about the new roster and the new addition, Boys in Blue. So don't miss Talking Blue 2015 lineup preview Into place Saturday at 5 o'clock. Sportsnet LA. Cubs and Dodgers in bright sunshine. Running up the bunt and then taken down low. Of course, for the Cubs, it's one of those areas that you look at and say, hey, wait a minute. You're enjoying the 80-plus degrees here. Remember a number of years ago, the final game the Cubs played at Scottsdale Stadium, where they were having spring training. They announced the temperature at 85 degrees, about where it is today. And then they announced the Chicago temperature, and it was the final day of spring training. The Cubs were going to get on the plane and fly to Chicago, open up the season there. Had a workout day the day before. There was a blizzard in Chicago. And it was 85 in the Valley of the Sun. A bunt and a nice play. Also by Chris Reed. And Dixon stays with the play. Second out of the inning. So you never know what you're going to get. You talk about dialing for dollars.
Boy, you're not kidding.
The weather conditions in Chicago.
They wanted to stay in Scottsdale for another week or two. Sure.
Well, they were actually thinking about doing it because in order to work out at Wrigley Field the following day, they had to bring in some equipment. Couldn't work out until late afternoon. They had to move some snow off the field.
Well, you know, the other part of that is when you're going from weather like this and you start up north and your season, injuries happen. Guys can get hurt, pulled muscles. Personally, I went through that in Boston. Lost two guys for the same reasons. It was snowing opening day, and of course it got canceled. And then
fly ball, right field. And it's an easy 1-2-3 inning for Chris Reed. So the Dodger pitching has been right on the money, but so is the Cubs for that matter. Good time in Mesa. We go to the 8th, still tied.
Presented by authority of the Los Angeles Dodgers may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of the game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Dodgers.
There's a great app. It's called MLB.TV Premium. Now, it's the #1 live streaming sports service, and it's available right now. You can join millions of subscribers. Watch every out-of-market game live in true HD on over 400 different devices. Now visit MLB.TV for more details. And from an unsolicited standpoint, it's also available in Spanish now. There are some new twists and turns to MLB.TV. Quite frankly, we use it during the season, going around, and whether it be on a bus somewhere or going to the airport or just back and forth from the ballpark. And check it out at MLB.TV. Well, Drake Britton takes over on the mound. The left-hander, he signed. In fact, he was claimed off waivers from the Red Sox in February. He spent 6 professional seasons in the Red Sox organization. The last 2 years combined 25 games at the big league level. So primarily he has been a minor league pitcher, 7 years in the minor leagues, and quite frankly, His numbers are not eye-popping. In those 7 years, 20 wins and 4 losses with an ERA of over 4.5. A big left-hander trying to finally get it together on a consistent basis.
Yeah, he was a 23rd round draft pick in 07. He was born in Waco, Texas.
Scott Schebler, the batter. And boy, has he been impressive in the spring.
Oh, he has. And Britton, by the way, will get it up there. He can get it up there to 96, 97. But normally he's in the 93 to 94 range.
Schebler is 6 for 14, a home run, 3 RBIs. And you can see that the swing is there, the bat speed is there. And maybe even more impressive than what the numbers are from a hitting standpoint, the way he goes about the game of baseball.
Yeah.
He is a thinking type of a player. He is a hustling type of a player.
He hit the game-tying home run yesterday at Camelback Ranch.
Has a very solid foundation as the hitter. Powerfully built, strong legs, and maybe he'll flex the legs over at first base. So the Dodgers, like the Cubs, have not been running a lot. Dodgers are 2 out of 3 in stolen opportunities.
It's a really good at bat. Tracked those breaking balls very well. Spit on that last pitch away, that fastball.
Well, the 3-3 tie and back-to-back ties. Does Don Mattingly think about maybe moving Schebler on a pitch with Zaraga the batter? Sean Zaraga taking over behind the plate. Britton delivers, and they're going to try and bunt him over, at least on that first pitch. When you are managing, or even when you're coaching and looking out for things, you have a bunt situation. You know, sometimes the element of surprise, you come back and not the bunt, but maybe a run.
Oh, yeah. Loved it. Yeah. Especially if you really trust your hitter, know your hitter, and definitely the opposition. If you figure, well, you know, now he knows we're bunting, so he's going to throw a nice fastball just to get a strike. Now you can make really something happen with a hit and run.
Showing the bunt again and pops it up. He reached for it, and that is a wasted out.
Yeah. Now, the sequencing is everything, Rick, what you're talking about. The count changes everything. Especially if you try to bunt first pitch and it's a ball and you take it. Now you can switch to hit and run. 0-1 count. So you left the bat back too far back and then kind of stabbed at it at the last instant.
Can't stab. You have to have the barrel of the bat out in front, and you want the barrel above your hands.
That's it. An easy pop out.
Darnell Sweeney, another one of the interesting stories of this Dodger ball club so far in the early goings of spring. After Sweeney takes inside, Darnell Sweeney hitting a cool 400. 4 for 10, has a home run, a couple of RBIs. He's also a guy, Kevin, that he has some experience. He runs well. He fields the positions well. Pitch down low and the count 2-0.
Got a little bit of pop, some power in there as well. A lot of things he can do. A lot of positions he can play also. He can play the outfield as well as second base.
Sweeney didn't back out all the way to the box with a new pace of game. You have to keep a foot in the box. Able to look at Lorenzo Bundy, and there's a pitch that goes right through the wickets, and the Dodgers have the go-ahead run in scoring position.
That's Lopez behind the plate. He didn't get down. He didn't shift. He just tried to pick it like an infielder. The Dodgers have the go-ahead run at second base. You can see right there. I mean, you got to go down and shift to your left, and that's something that every manager doesn't like to see, especially with young guys, but veterans too. And that'll be addressed by Joe Madden. Joe Madden, by the way, was a catcher when he played. People may not know that.
Well, Lopez also went down with just the glove hand.
That's it.
There was no movement. There was no attempt to block it. Didn't get down in front. And Sweeney will draw the walk. Second walk in the inning.
And you have to anticipate, especially when you're calling a breaking ball, but any time really, even with the fastball, you got to anticipate. And that's why you have to be on the balls of your feet and not on your heels. And if your tail is too low, you can't move. You can't shift with men on base.
Joe Madden looking on. The 54th manager in Chicago Cubs history. Cubs also have another new twist in the nomenclature of one of their coaches, the lovable Henry Blanco. Dixon hits it foul way out in front of him.
I was waiting for this.
Henry Blanco, folks, is on the coaching staff, and he brought to home plate the lineup card for the Chicago Cubs today. Henry, former Dodger catcher, and one of the good guys. His title, Quality Assurance Coach. And we're not making it up. Quality Assurance Coach, Henry Blanco. Ground ball to third. Tags the runner for one. Double play goes over. You never want to be tagged out if you're the runner, if you can avoid it at all. A couple of walks, a wild pitch, and a runner left. Bottom of the 8th inning. Shadows are coming on in the stadium. 3-3 tie. No errors, and the Chicago Cubs will come on at bat in the bottom half of the 8th inning. 3 runs, 7 hits, and no errors. It's been a clean fielding game. And Chris Anderson, the right-hander, comes out of the Dodgers bullpen.
Chris was the #1 pick out of Jacksonville University in 2013. Numbers from last season, A-ball, 25 of those games were starts. An even record at 7-7, ERA above 4.5.
So getting back to the Henry Blanco designation as the Chicago Cubs Quality Assurance Coach. Now, we don't know really what the responsibilities of the Quality Assurance Coach is. But the Cubs over the years have had some unusual descriptions for a couple of their coaches. Remember when they had the coaches by committee?
I do remember that.
The 5 different guys would take over, and one would be the manager
right.
1 week, and then it would be the next guy and the next guy.
Sure do remember that, yeah.
But when Leo DeRocher was the manager in his final year in 1972, Leo was let go about halfway through the season. But Leo had a coach. Lovable guy, the coach. Not necessarily Leo. Hank Aguirre.
Yeah,
an outstanding pitcher.
Yeah.
The Detroit Tigers. Well, Hank Aguirre was a coach for Leo DeRocher on the Cubs. And Hank's title, liaison coach.
What does that mean?
Well, put it this way. He was coaching for Leo DeRocher.
Bringing everybody together.
Yeah.
Between Leo and the players, right?
Well, whatever. Well, Leo needed a liaison coach. And a leadoff walk and out the way to enter the ballgame to Tommy La Stella.
If Joe Madden hears that, he will get a liaison coach too. Believe me. Sanderson is an interesting guy. He's from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I mentioned he was #1 pick just 2 drafts ago. Saw his numbers at Rancho. He's slated right now for Double-A as well, but he can get it up there mid-90s with that fastball. He's got a slider and curveball and changeup, but walks are not what you want to see in the tight game.
Chris Valenka in his first at bat, he just got a wake-up call.
Sure did.
It is rather amazing as the ball gets closer to you, the thought process and how rapidly you can try and exit the area.
He turned the right way. He turned back in toward the catcher. Otherwise, he would have gotten that one right in the face.
And there are so many batters that try to open up and they turn into it.
Yep.
First thing you want to do, get the hands out of the way and then get the gourd out of the way.
Boy, ironically, it may remind me of flying over here the other day. I was reading an article on the plane about Giancarlo Stanton. And, of course, they had pictures of when he got hit last year and how he has come back. Of course, get the big contract a month or 2 later. But boy, that could have been devastating. There's a nice life on that fastball down.
Get the ball down, a chance to get movement.
You got hit in the face, right, Rick?
You hit my rookie year. Just
how do you
to the right of the nose?
Right.
And Tony Canigliaro was one of the sad cases.
Oh boy, was he ever? Is that Jack Hamilton?
And it crushed the zygomatic arch, the cheekbone, and affected his vision. Runners going on a hit and run and a base hit into center field. Throw to third, not in time. So the Cubs playing a little motion and getting the runners at the corners with nobody out. A 3-3 tie here in the 8th inning.
Well, that's Joe Madden baseball. I will tell you this. You just mentioned about, would you bunt? And if you show the bunt one pitch, would you hit and run the next? Joe Madden will do that type of baseball. That's a fastball up and in. Actually was a ball because the hit and run was on. The batter has to swing the bat, and he executes with a clean single to center field. That's Joe Madden's way. Now, the Cubs didn't steal many bases last year. Joe's going to make things happen in Chicago. He does play exciting baseball. And you got to watch out, too, right here for that first and third safety squeeze. He loves that play. Usually more so with 1 out, but he'll do it with no outs as well. He's got the right guys.
Adron Chambers coming on to hit. Infield is going to play in, try and choke off the run, the go-ahead run at third base. Dodgers have only 1 more trip to home plate. That's in the 9th inning.
It wouldn't surprise me if Joe gets a chance to work that right now because he wants to teach these players in this organization that particular play, how to execute. You got to bunt the ball toward first base.
Fly ball. That'll get the go-ahead run on the sacrifice fly by Chambers. And the Cubs take the 4-3 lead. That's to the right of not the hometown crowd, but there's a lot of people from Chicago that coming out and enjoying the weather. It's 43 degrees right now currently in downtown Chicago, so they're enjoying 85.
Well, Joe Madden didn't have to put the play on right there. He got a pitch up that was very hittable, and Chambers executes with the sac fly.
Let me ask you this. How important is it for a manager that comes on? Now, Madden brings in a record of his own. Runners going at first. Wasting no time at all. It's a pop-up. Shallow right field. Jensen loses the hat but catches the ball. And Christian Villanueva makes the out. Second out of the inning. Is it important, or how important is it for a manager who comes over? And again, he has a track record, he being Madden. But to deliver a message to his ball club on what he wants, what he's going to dictate, and it's his club.
I think for Joe, because now he's established in the major leagues, it's a little easier for him. When you're first coming, from the minor leagues and nobody knows you, or unless you're a big league star player and you get the job, they know you, but they really don't know how you run a game. I think most players now, even if you're not with the Rays, you understand what Joe Madden's all about. So I think it's a little bit easier now for Joe than when he first went to Tampa Bay, for example, because when he first went to Tampa Bay, I remember B.J. Upton, when he got called up, finally said something in the manner of, now Melvin Upton, by the way, his father's name, he's a junior, said, oh, it's about time. I should have been here a long time ago. And Joe had to stop that immediately, Rick. He said, listen, you're not entitled just because where you were drafted. He stopped that sense of entitlement that some young players will have. He stopped that immediately, and he changed the culture over there completely.
Rafael Lopez is the batter, his first trip to home plate. Makes his home in Wellington, Florida. The throw down to second base and safe. Cubs have also not been running a great deal so far this spring, but that's number 7 out of 11 that have been successful.
Yeah, Joe likes to run, as I mentioned, so this organization will run. Now, obviously, you want to have decent speed with guys that will run, and he does on the bases in this particular inning. That's a nice throw by Zaraga, but that stolen base was off of Anderson. But Joe likes to make things happen, no matter if he has power or not. He will make these guys execute. So he will put in his game plan, and for him, it is important. And the wins and losses, they're 0-6 as we speak, are not that important. But when you get down to your final 10, 12 games and you got your lineup out there, you want to play, winning baseball. And really, your lineup gets out there. You want these guys executing the type of game that he's going to run.
Lopez, a September call-up last year at the Big League Ball Club. Right side, Sweeney. And the Dodgers have 3 outs to come over the run to tie it. We go to the top of the 9th inning. Here in Mesa, Arizona, the matchup, the Dodgers and Cubs, 4-3 Chicago. Been mandatory here this afternoon. Good crowds on hand. Cub blue, a little bit different than Dodger blue, but it's baseball and it's spring training, and happy to have you with us. Rick Muddy along with Kevin Kennedy. We will join you from Peoria tomorrow night. The Dodgers take on the San Diego Padres, and again, that's Will Ferrell will come on at some point in time during that game, as he will try and replicate Campy Campanera's 50th anniversary at Campy with the then Kansas City A's, playing all 9 positions in a game, and Will Ferrell doing it for a cancer fundraiser. It's really been an enjoyable day. The Dodgers and Cubs have both played very cleanly on the field. We've seen some good plays, including an extraordinary catch by Yasiel Puig. Zach Greinke went 2 innings, gave up a couple of runs, yes, but more importantly, Kevin, he got through those 2 innings of work and showed some pretty good command of even the off-speed pitch, which is not that easy to do your first outing.
No, he broke out the curveball early and threw a couple of really good ones, and even mixed in the changeup, which he threw a lot last year compared to other years. It's that A.J. Ellis even talked about that he's gone to that changeup more and more. And really made some good pitches with the fastball. And honestly, Jim Reynolds, was a little bit tight with the zone. So nothing to worry about with Zach Greinke. The one thing, Rick, that you look at is how he feels when he wakes up tomorrow after throwing 29 pitches today.
Justin Turner leading it off. He knocked in 2 runs in the 4th. That's when the Dodgers came up with all 3 of the runs to tie it. Chicago opened up with 2 runs in the 2nd, 1 more in the 3rd. And it's the left-hander Zach Roscup that is on the mound for Chicago. Roscup in his 5th professional season. Acquired from Tampa Bay back in 2011. He made 18 relief appearances. Talk about somebody up and down, frequent flyer mileage. Roscup made 7 different stops with the big league ball club last year.
Wow. And it's only one option. It only counts as one in a year, a calendar year.
But in the big leagues, pretty high strikeout percentage. 21 punch outs and just 13 in the 3rd innings.
Well, he likes to pound with the fastball. He's got a 4-seamer, a 2-seamer, and a slider, but mostly 4-seam fastballs. 93-mile-an-hour average last year at 75% of the time.
Well, he struck out at the minor league level more batters than he walked by a considerable margin. In fact, more batters struck out than innings pitched at the minor league level.
He is basically just a 2-pitch pitcher, fastball, slider, but a lot of fastballs.
Here it comes, hit it. So Turner trying to get aboard. Dodgers down 4-3 here in the top of the 9th inning. If the Dodgers are able to tie, we do not know if the Dodgers brought enough pitchers to go into the 10th inning, or if the Cubs, for that matter, have anyone available. Cubs do have people at least sitting in their bullpen and someone warming up at the present time. Dodgers did not have anyone warming up, and a line drive and a thank you very much, but a right turn by Turner. Hit it hard, hang with it.
Well, Turner has hit every fastball he's seen today. He doubled in the 4th inning. He singled on a fastball in the 6th inning. And he hit a line drive, hard line drive to dead center field, right on the screws here in the 9th inning. And that indeed was a fastball, too.
Tim Wallach on the right. A moment ago, the bench coach for Don Mattingly. Going over that lineup to see exactly what's going to happen. Alex Guerrero in his first at bat. Guerrero has hit well this spring. That's really kind of the story. Fouls it off here. For Guerrero, he really struggled, I think, last year with trying to find identity. Didn't have the same swing. His swing got long, but it has been short and quick so far. He has 6 hits and 11 at bats. Home run, couple of RBIs. He has struck out just 1 time. So he has made very good contact. But behind the count here, 0-2. Shadows have not really gobbled up the field, but if it continues on for another 5 minutes or so. Down the 3rd base line. All of the infield is in sunshine. 3rd base, some shadows from the light standards. Fastball upstairs, and 2nd strikeout at the spring by Guerrero. And he went after a ball. That is a hard pitch to handle. I don't care who it is that's hitting.
Yeah, that's one of those high 4-seam fastballs that we talked about with Roscup that he likes to throw 3/4 of the time. You know what you're going to get for the most part, and it's too tough for Guerrero to lay off of. It was right at the hands or above him, and you can't get to that.
Dodgers are down to their final out. Isbel Arabuena is the batter. There's 2 for 9 so far. Dodgers will head back across the valley. With any luck, they'll be on the front end of any traffic. Used to not have to worry about traffic in the Phoenix area. Like any large now cosmopolitan area. Freeways were not in existence here for a long period of time, but like everywhere else, won't be in a hurry.
It's all changed now. Highway 10 used to end right at outside of Phoenix, didn't it, Rick? You get from Phoenix to Scottsdale, you used to have to take the side streets.
Now we're going to go down to Tucson.
Yep.
We're going to go straight On Van Buren all the way out to Apache Junction.
Yeah, that's it. That's right. 10 would hook or curve toward Tucson. And, if you didn't get off, that's where you're going. If you stayed on the freeway.
Crowd on their feet, many of them here.
First win.
Trying to close it out in Ross Cup. The Dodgers are down to their final strike of the game. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Big crowd did not get the final tally as far as the number of people. It's a big ballpark. And spring training continues. This is the 9th game for the Dodgers. Unless something happens, this would be their 2nd loss in a lead. It is the 2nd loss, technically. And for Joe Madden, it's the first victory in the 54th manager of the Chicago Cubs here in spring training. All in all, a very good day of work. We saw a couple of good plays in Zach Greinke as well. So they will move along and move along indeed. That's going to do it from Mesa. Again, the final score. The Cubs prevailed today 4-3 as they win their first game of the season. Greinke started. Puig made a terrific catch. Be sure to join us tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Now the Dodgers will take on the San Diego Padres. And speaking for Kevin Kennedy, this is Rick Monday bidding you a very good afternoon from the Valley of the Sun. Again, Cubs 4, Dodgers 3.